Talofa people. I was born and raised in Mangere, born in Mirumo Hospital, Otahuhu. 1986, you do the math, I won't tell you how old I am. When people ask where I consider home is, I always say South Auckland. And the reason is because my earliest memories are from South. In those early years, South was that area for me, in that community. I stay in a place called Stratford, East London, and it took me a while to find a place that felt like home, you know. And I'd say that this place, Stratford, East London, reminds me a little bit of a mixture between Papatoetoe and Mangere. And it's important for me to feel like, as far away as I am from home, I can still feel like it's home, you know. So it's quite a multicultural little suburb. Whenever our sports teams come over, I am always on it. I'm always trying to find out, you know, if I can get time off work to go and watch the ABs play, or if even some of our athletes are over here. Yeah, I'm always. And the funny thing is, the further you are away from home, the more you really want to plug into supporting your people, you know, especially last year in the Rugby League World Cup. Another thing I love about being here and the things I've experienced in my industry and working in the Lion King and being in theatre is really giving a piece of my community to people and my culture and being able to share that. And the thing is, when you're here, you realize you're a minority, and it's easy to be proud of where you're from and your culture and identify when you're within your own safety net. But when you're taken from that, and when you are challenged, and when you're taken out of your comfort zone on the other side of the world, you learn a lot of things about yourself. Yes, you're challenged, and yes, sometimes you're a little bit like, man, I miss home. But more than that, you realize how strong you are. You realize how much you have to offer and how much you have to give, and how sometimes those mountains that you perceive to be quite huge and foreign aren't as big as you think. And you're also proud of the way you've been equipped back home. Like you realize that, man, we're not behind. You know, there's that misconception sometimes that we're on the corner of the earth and we're this nation, but we're not. We're so enriched with culture, with our educational institutions. We just happen to be far away from everything. That's all. My favorite part of South, I'd say the part where I had the most memories. You know, my grandma's house in Favona, Mangere Mountain, where we would like go and have family walks and stuff sometimes when we were young. The town centre, that place it's funny, I went there last year when I had a trip back home, and it's changed, but it's the same, you know. There's a lot of new shops, but the way that it's set out, I remember it just like it was yesterday, you know. Steak and cheese all the way, steak and cheese. That's one thing they don't have here. Our pies back home are number one. Here, they have nice pies, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Hands down, Marmite with a bit of melted butter on the toast. Lots of melted butter, actually. Just a little bit of Marmite, just so you get the taste of it, not like smothered. That's how I like it anyway. Don't judge me. Hokey pokey or goody gumdrops? Hokey pokey, hands down. Goody gumdrops. What is that? What flavour is that? It's weird. Hokey pokey.
Hey guys, my name is Tungi Hiuru. I'm Cook Island Niue Tongan, and from Uruhu, and I've been living abroad and living and working overseas. I've lived in China and worked in China. From there I moved to Colombia, and I lived and worked in Colombia, and after Colombia I lived and worked in St. Petersburg in Russia on the Baltic Sea. Overseas was I've had a lot of friends travel abroad, and yeah, they just keep coming back with cool stories. You know, I just wanted to have some cool stories to tell my family and my friends and my grandkids and my kids. Also, I think it was just natural for me to go and travel as part of my development. Like, I've always been curious about the world, even curious about New Zealand. Like, I've traveled all over New Zealand. been to Aussie, been to the islands and stuff like that. Yeah, and I just, just always wanted more. So I cruised over to, took a teaching job in China, and that sort of just kicked it off from there. Yeah, I always wanted to go to a place that was quite challenging. So a place where they didn't speak English. Just a whole new different world. That's what I wanted to experience with traveling. And that's part of the reason I chose those 3 countries to go and live. I've traveled a little bit between, like all other countries, Hong Kong, or all heaps of little stops in between. Yeah, and just partly like a lot of my family don't really travel. Maybe they do the odd trip to Australia and back, but they never really do the old intrepid journeys. So I really wanted to go someplace, and just be a trailblazer, Rolling Stone kind of guy. And yeah, I really just wanted to go and challenge myself and see what these other worlds are like. Yeah, I always follow the All Blacks. They get a big following all over the world. Rugby's a growing sport, so yeah, All Blacks are the benchmark of rugby union. So I always follow the All Blacks, and I always follow the Kiwis. That's my team, the Kiwis. 3 things I miss about New Zealand. One thing I miss about New Zealand is I miss being around island people. Island people, they're good at lifting people's spirits. They can just take a real serious, sad situation and just make a funny joke out of it. So I miss that about island people. Just, just the laughter. Yeah, I miss the food in New Zealand. I miss pies. Pies are hard to come by overseas. Decent pies. And what else do I miss? I just miss a lot of access to beaches and nature. The bush, the beach in New Zealand, man. Like you're always like 5 minutes away. You're close to the mountains. You're close to the bush. Like, and you sort of take that kind of stuff for granted, So traveling's definitely given me probably the biggest thing is perspective about New Zealand and how good we do have it in New Zealand. 3 things I love about being overseas in my country is, people, they think I look like The Rock. They come and ask me if I'm Polynesian. It's quite cool. It's like sort of like flavor of the month to be Polynesian. You've got all people like The Rock holding it down. You've got these, you've got Moana, the movie that come out. So there's a lot of interest around our culture, Pacific culture. So that was quite cool, being able to share my Pacific identity with people who are curious about our region of the world because it's so far away. So it was cool being able to share a lot of knowledge about being UN, growing up in Auckland, New Zealand. A lot of people curious about the haka and things like that. So, it was cool to be able to share that kind of stuff. I just loved China, Russia, and Colombia. Like just for my own personal reasons, like study and stuff. I studied. I'm a BA and criminology major. So those countries are really, there's a lot of crime in those countries. So it was really interesting from my study background to go and live in those areas and just you read about things in the news, narcotics trafficking and stuff, human trafficking, all that kind of stuff, and it was just real interesting to be so close to it.
Tala Falava. Hello, my name is Lucy Nene. I'm 28 years old, born and raised in New Zealand, grew up in Rewa, went to JC. Shout out to everybody from JC. I live in Canada now. Small town, Buckhurst, in the province of Saskatchewan. It takes like 45 minutes to drive around the whole town. One gas station, one grocery store, one pharmacy, 2 Chinese restaurants. I don't know why, but people love their Chinese here. It's not like home though, I'll give you that. Youth work is pretty much why my husband and I have been here for the last 4 years, mainly with First Nations communities, and that's going into their villages and into their communities, just trying to empower them to be proud of who they are as Indigenous people, and yeah, just show our beautiful culture as Islanders, as Samoans, just to encourage them. So that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years here in Canada, is just youth work with the First Nations people.